All right, pleasant good morning to each and every one of you guys. I am Christ, I am Disciple. You're watching my channel. And we're going to talk about how to get DC back on track because DC's off track. It's running off the rails. Kal-El, the Snyderverse is unkillable. Shout out to my boy Kal-El. Like my boy Kal-El was just waiting. We're going to talk about how to get DC back on track. And we're going to talk about the format. And I want to just say that I think Warner Brother Pictures has pivoted. They have done a pivot, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it now. Salute to Kal-El in the building. Yeah, we're going to talk about it, y'all. First, I got to say a couple things. So the first thing is, if you want to support this channel, in the chat section, you can always donate to the channel via PayPal. That's how I sort of make money. I still do. This is a business for me, and that's how I make money. The other thing is, if you want to join on here, you want to chop it up with me as a guest, not just in the chat section. I'll highlight all the chats, but you want to talk person to person, picture to picture, the link's in the chat. And I'm going to tell you the format so you will understand, because we always have a format. First thing is, we're going to have a piece of scripture. Okay, the scripture sort of sets the tone for what we're going to talk about. It also, I must say, is important for giving all praise and glory, for I'm a Christian, to the Most High God. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about, these are the topics. BVS, its tonality, and the misunderstanding of it. And underneath that, we have some subsections. So you have to find out, and you must be able to summarize the story of BVS in just one sentence. If you can't summarize what a movie is and can't tell me what the story of the movie is all about, then it means you cannot assess or judge the movie. All right. You must be able to understand what is this movie saying, and then you can go about saying, did it accomplish what it was setting out to do? We'll point out also when we talk about BVS, a director's singular vision. And this goes all the way to the Ayer cut and what it represents and why it's important to release the Ayer cut. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is that Warner Brothers needs to pivot now. They cannot pivot. They cannot pivot later. They cannot pivot next year. This is the time to pivot for several different reasons. Some of them are, one, the double standards. They have confidence in certain creators lining up with the studio's vision, regardless of flops, versus the creators forging to move in a mature vision. And these creators, their movies are tampered with quite a lot. The other thing is, another reason that the pivot is necessary now, a reboot will not work. The studio has done reboots multiple times. We'll talk about that in some more detail. We'll also talk about how the strike arrest any production work in the industry, and also, as a result, the studios, and that could grossly affect their income, how they generate income, how they generate their profits, and that is a critical thing that we must talk about. As well as when it comes to DC, the DC movies are flopping left, right, and center, so something has to be done about that, and it cannot be a reboot. The reboot will not work. For a reboot to work, you have to clear about 7-8 years. So that means 7-8 years and no content whatsoever. If that's what they want to do, well. And number 5, the brand, the DC brand, is costing the studio billions of dollars, not millions of dollars, but billions of dollars. So this is a very key thing, and we'll go into that in some more detail as well. The solution is Zack Snyder's Justice League in IMAX and a pivot towards restoring the Snyderverse and more adult content. Whereas it is true we need to appeal to children. Children generally love just about anything. So now underneath that, what we're going to talk about, Zack Snyder's, they call it Justice League trilogy. I call it the Superman trilogy. Re-release. They want to re-release this on Blu-ray October the 20th. And we'll talk about the Dark Knight trilogy. It's also being re-released September the 16th. Notice these are 2 mature content movies they're putting out on Blu-ray. So this is very interesting. Keep that in mind. That's for Batman Day. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll also talk about 3-hour epics being very successful at the box office. So we're going to talk about that. And of recent times, we have 3-hour epics like Oppenheimer, Avatar, The Way of Water, Endgame. These are all successful. And this year, Martin Scorsese's film, Killers of the Flower Moon, will be released fully on IMAX and cinemas October the 20th. What I'm trying to say to you guys is there was supposed to be a limited release because it's coming off on Apple, but they linked up with Paramount Pictures and they're going to do a full release. So they're going from limited to full release. And I want to just exhort Netflix. I want to also exhort Warner Brothers. If these are great ideas. Now, if you do not capitalize on this now, that's on you, because other companies are going to jump at it. And there's a lot I want to say about BVS and how a lot of companies out there and a lot of creators jumped on the idea that Zack Snyder presented to the world of more mature themes. We'll get to that later on as well. Okay, and then the other thing I'm going to talk about, which is more fan-like, is some upcoming releases or releases I haven't seen that I want to see this year that I think I would like to advocate very strongly that you go watch, because a lot of people think we're just Snyder cultists. We only want the Zack Snyder stuff, and that's not true at all. We're actually highly intelligent people who actually like very good content. When you're putting movie makings, we like cinema. We're not old school. We just love cinema, and we know what cinema is. So if you're talking about cinema, here are some movies that I think you could, I suggest to you that you watch. So this is what we'll be talking about today from beginning to end. I hope you guys enjoy this stuff, because we're really going to take a deep dive into it. This will not take long, though, because I'm going to get to the point of everything else. Shout out to Kal-El. Shout out to all the people viewing this video now. If you guys want to come through again as guests, don't forget you can join right here. If you want to donate via PayPal, it's in the chat section as well as in the description. And let's get to it. So first things first, scripture. Not going to play around this time. I'm going to get to the point. All right. The scripture today is coming from, let me make sure I have my thoughts together here. Hope the page didn't turn. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, man. I'm trying to remember what it is. I lost my train of thought when it comes to this. Yeah, I got it. Okay. So, interesting. I don't remember it being Isaiah, though. I think the fan probably blew it. All right, cool. Here we go. I got it. All right. So the scripture is coming from Isaiah chapter 19. For those of you who have Bibles or you read scripture. Now, mind you, you will find similar stuff in the Jewish Torah, and you'll also find similar stuff in the Quran. Okay? Because everything I'm about to read here, it can be found in all three books. They're written slightly differently because it's different languages, and this is translated into English. So it'll be written slightly differently, but the sentiments are more or less the same. All right. Hear this out. This is coming from Isaiah chapter 11. What fools are the counselors of Zoan? Their best counsel to the king of Egypt is stupid and wrong. Will they still boast of their wisdom? Will they dare tell Pharaoh about their long line of wise ancestors? What has happened to your wise counselors, Pharaoh? If they're so wise, let them tell you what the Lord Almighty is going to do to Egypt. The wise men from Zoan are fools. Those from Memphis are deluded. The leaders of Egypt have ruined the land with their foolish counsel. The Lord has sent a spirit of foolishness on them so that all their suggestions are wrong. They cause the land of Egypt to stagger like a sick drunkard. Nobody in Egypt, whether rich or poor, important or known, can offer any help. That is a word of warning. It's very relevant to what we are saying. Let's get into it. To address BVS, its tonality, and a lot of things that are misunderstood about this movie, you must be able to address the movie as an adult. Even if this movie can be watched by children, no doubt about it, rated R or not, children love just about anything. You can put anything out there, children will love it. That's just the way our children are. And children learn. They absorb things like a sponge. There'll be imprintations on them. There'll be impact on them. Some children are very intelligent, but not very experienced. BVS is a movie that requires you to actively watch it. If you're going to passively watch a movie and expect it to give you everything you need, this movie will disappoint you because you have to think. Zack does not, every single movie Zack has done has not been dumb entertainment. Regardless of what they say about Zack Snyder, they would say, oh, he just does explosions, he's like Michael Bay, it's dumb entertainment. No, it's not. So, to this day, we still find new and interesting things about BVS that deal with our morality, that deal with qualities and attributes that we could foster. To this day, BVS, not only historically and otherwise, but BVS just keeps on giving. It's a packed movie with lots of things in it. And that is why we say it's rewatchable. People say Zack Snyder stuffs his movie with stuffs. This is just their way of saying we can't grasp and fathom what he's doing. Because it's new, it's different. Now, Zack is a big comic book fan. And so as I delve into this, understand Zack Snyder's not just addressing BVS in terms of comic books, graphic novels, but he's also addressing this in terms of video games for the gamers out there. He's also addressing this movie in terms of storytelling entertainment, meaning there are video games where it's like a mystery video game. There was the Batman mystery kind of video game which Sony put out. He was addressing it from that perspective as well. And he was also addressing it from the perspective of the animated versions of the characters out there. So Zack was addressing this movie and put this movie out for 3 different levels of comic book fan. The gamers, the comic book readers, the people who watch Sunday morning cartoons or watch the animated movies and films. He was addressing a certain sphere of people, even the people who watch the live action TV shows. He was trying to capture everybody. Of course, the live action TV shows didn't really have a lot of Batman in them. They had more Superman than Batman. In fact, to this day, Superman and Lois is a TV show. Now, what people have to understand, and I think a lot of people do not understand, and I hear them saying things that tell me they don't understand. When you compare a TV show to a movie, which you can do understand that is a hell of a lot more work that goes into a movie than a TV show. And the materials and the detail and so on. It's just a whole other thing because it's a whole other level of entertainment. The hierarchy of entertainment goes something like this. You have animated features, and then you have live action. That's a step above. Live action is divided into episodes, like series, like TV shows, like Game of Thrones, like, you have premium episodes and you have episodes that can be on TV, flat TV, CBS, whatever. All right. And then you have premium episodes where you have to have a subscription and you go and watch these things because it's only available on the subscription or on subscription services. And then the highest level, which grosses the most amount of money, is film. So as a result, these different levels get different budgets. So when you talk about feature films, they are the top of the hierarchy of things. So when I hear some people try to compare Superman and Lewis's Superman to Henry Cavill's rendition of Superman, you must understand what it is you're talking about. Because there's just two different levels of storytelling in terms of detail, and so many things, so many factors. I can list them, but I won't go into it. Now, when we talk about BVS, one of the reasons BVS was considered by many very dismissive is because of the narrative that was circulated about BVS. I fought against that narrative very vociferously on YouTube back in those times. I and several other people I came to understand, but I was very, very, very active in debunking that narrative. And I'm talking specifically about the theatrical cut of BVS, because there were so many critiques that were false about it. To this day, it is considered a controversial film, which is actually a high honor, because when a film can be controversial, it means it forces people to think. It forces people not to accept blindly anything that is presented to them. And that was the purpose of that film. Even though maybe Zack Snyder didn't necessarily intend it to be that way, it ended up being that way. And controversy is not necessarily a bad thing. In this case, it forced people to actually know about the lore. Now, I must present two adversaries of BVS who we came to understand were within Warner Brothers. The first adversary was the mentality of the executives. It wasn't any particular executive per se. Shout out to Greg Silverman, who was not one of those executives. But it was more or less a mentality by these executives, which will continue onwards forever, because they don't really deal with movies. They are financiers. They are people investing in a product. They're not supposed to really necessarily know what this product, what entails in making the product. What I would suggest to every single executive is that you do not try to cross the boundaries set. What I mean by this is, yes, you have a business, but as an executive, you have to invest some of your money into that business, and you want to know what's happening with your money. Fair. That's not something bad. It's a fair point. But what we are going to discuss in this video in great detail is how, when you invest your money, you must allow the experts in their given fields to do what they do, And you have to trust them and their expertise. Do not try to be a part of the actual, the word I am looking for is formulation of said creative process. You as an executive are there. If you've allowed a director to come on board to direct a movie, why did you hire them? If you do not want their expertise, you want to actually contribute to their expertise, you want to actually direct what they're directing, you want to give notes and all these things, then why don't you just make your own movie? Because what you're really doing is you are making them a rubber stamp. This name is associated with this product, but I'm the one, and I don't care how small you think this change is. Keep your hands off the product. This is not your area of expertise. Your area of expertise is investment. You know how to invest in things. You know how to handle the financing of things. You are there to accommodate said director, said manager, said cast, said crew. You are there to facilitate, make sure they're the best possible environment, so that if the director falls on his sword, he alone is to blame for his product not performing. You are there to shelter and protect your investment. You are not there to make recommendations about the creative process of your investment. That will be handled by those who are qualified to do so. The handing down of notes worked in Marvel for several reasons. It will not work in DC because of the following. One, you have a different audience. Marvel formulated this universe off of Iron Man. In order for Marvel to get the ball rolling, people had to buy into Iron Man. Iron Man changed everything for Marvel. They then decided to capture what was in Iron Man and multiply it and franchise it. But the one thing they understood was you don't mess with Captain America. You leave him to perform as he always does, and you try to make quality films, and you build those quality films off of him. So there are certain characters they never played around with, they never messed with, they never made fun of. They never had them in jokey situations. They played them straight. Iron Man was a good counter to Captain America. So they could have afforded to do notes and all these things because they had a constant, which they just didn't mess around with. And they had another character who people bought into. People bought into Iron Man. So it didn't matter after that what they did with the character because people bought into the character. That did not happen at DC. People bought into Christopher Nolan's storytelling, but he never really bought into Christopher Nolan's Batman. What I mean by this is, even though the movies made a lot of money, the one carrying the franchise was not Batman. It was the intriguing villains. It was Joker that carried the franchise in the second movie. And in the third movie, it was Bane and Talia al Ghul that carried the story. Right? With Zack Snyder's DCEU, the one carrying the story, the straight one was Superman. But Superman was afflicted quite a lot in his DCEU because Zack wanted to push adversity and overcoming adversity. That real life is like that. But what people were trying to compare Ben Affleck's Batman to Iron Man was not that. Zack was not using an Iron Man with a straight shooter. He was using a straight shooter with a straight shooter because he wanted to keep the movies sincere. He did not want people to make fun of these characters. He did not want these characters to be diminished. He had a certain reverence for the characters because he wanted to emphasize on the virtues of the characters. He wanted to highlight the qualities of the characters. So in order to do that, he had to keep Batman straight. He had to keep Superman straight. He had to keep Wonder Woman straight. And the comic relief came off of characters like Perry White with his snarky sarcasm, Lex Luthor, who was flamingly flamboyant, but always playing around with words, revealing his intentions, right? Those were the two sort of, not comic relief, but those were the two characters you could play with. And the thing about it is, which is so interesting to me, is all of the characters were evolving as the story was playing out. So Zack started to create what I call an evolving chimera, three-dimensional development of characters, which is something you don't see every day. In fact, I haven't seen that because, okay, so when you look at BVS, for instance, the theatrical version, it's not a linear story. It's a cyclic story. So he starts at one point here and he goes around in a circle with different people, different things, and he spirals back almost the same point where he started, but he's just slightly ahead. So it's a spiral. It keeps on doing like that and keeps on moving. And that's what, for me, that's what made it so interesting and intriguing to me, the theatrical cut. And you have to fill in the gaps. You have to fit things together, and you're piecing together something because it's like a thriller. You're trying to solve the puzzle. Now, with the ultimate cut, which is what he intended to have, it's much more linear, but still there's the intrigue, there's the, because it's not who's behind it that's the problem in the thriller. It's what is he trying to pull off and how is he trying to pull it off? So the thriller wasn't in, especially first viewing, the thriller wasn't in, it wasn't in who's the culprit. That's not the thriller part. The thriller part is what's he trying to pull off and what's his next step. That's the thriller. And to see the characters catch up to him, if they could catch up to him. So BVS is a tremendous piece of movie, whether it's the theatrical or the Ultimate Edition. But tonally speaking, BVS is not a dark movie, what people call dark movies. A dark movie would be something like The Shining, or something like you should, we'll go into that later. But The Shining, Tim Burton's Batman somewhat. Dark movies, Brightburn is a perfect example of that. That's a dark movie. You can't sleep in the night after seeing that movie like that. That's a dark movie. So tonally speaking, BVS was a realistic take on a fantasy character being a part of our world. And it's very real. Now, all of this you know already, but here's where it gets interesting. Now, first of all, let me just go into the comment section because there's a lot of people talking. Oh, Kal-El says, I agree. Not dark, but mature, adult content. Yes, that is why Zack Snyder talks a lot about Something Metal, which was an adult graphic novel. It's coming to me, and in fact, Robert Robert Mears, or Robert Mears Jr. or something like that. He was also talking about that same thing, something metal. I forgot what the name of the comic is. Something metal. You guys know what I'm talking about. And that's an inspiration Zack Snyder uses for all of his directing. I can't remember what it is. Something metal. You know, actually, I can find it. Let me go find it. So, suffice it to say that BVS is one of the better comic book movies that you'll ever see in your lifetime. There are a few of them that I think are really great. Unbreakable, Split, Blade, Conan the Barbarian. Even after all these years, it's still something. You got, there's many of them actually. The Dark Knight is a fantastic movie because of Heath Ledger. You got Joker out there. I mean, when you talk about fantastic movies, this is what you're talking about, right? Now, let me see if I can find that name. Let me get on to a little bit more about this tonality and misunderstanding. Okay, so let me explain something, because a lot of times people think, you know, like for example, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad is a comedy. It's a dark comedy, right? It's very bloody. Is it edgy? Kind of, right? But it's kind of infantile at the same time. But where the misunderstanding comes in is they think that Zack Snyder is doing violence for violence sake, edginess for edginess sake, etc. And he's a stylized sort of director, and that's not true. That's a misunderstanding. In fact, Zack Snyder is probably more a pacifist than he is a violent person, and his movies sort of emphasize the ugliness of violence to some degree. All right, now let me shit. You gotta bear with me. I know it's a big pause. I meant to keep it moving. Okay. Yeah, found it. Woohoo! Is it? Is that what it says? So? I don't think it's that. No, that's not it. I guess it's Heavy Metal Adult Comic Magazine. I think it's that. Not sure, but because the style of this. Hold on a second. Okay, so this is heavy metal here. I don't think it was heavy metal though. It's something metal, but I can't remember what it is. Check this out. This is kind of dope. But you know, the ideas, the concepts in it, that kind of stuff. But again, he's kind of coming from that sort of. I can't remember what the name of it is though. Let me see. Hold on. I don't think it's heavy metal. It's something else. I'm only getting heavy metal. But it reminds me of Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian kind of has that feel to it. You know what I mean? And Zack Snyder kind of plays into that feel as well. But the misunderstanding of BVS is that, you know, Zack is trying to be so edgy and he's trying to be so dark and he's trying to be so gloomy. You know, he's taking all the color out of the film that, you know, he just try, you know, Batman's a killer. He's a murderer. He's a mercenary, right? And they don't get, you know, and Superman's just depressed all the time, emo Superman, right? And they don't, the misunderstanding is that's not what Zack Snyder is actually doing at all. In fact, Zack Snyder is painting a picture from the comics. That's why Frank Miller is such a big fan of Ben Affleck's acting in Batman v Superman, because the Batman that Batman presents in Batman v Superman is one in which he's not a murderer. Clearly, he's not a murderer, but he is on a mission to murder Superman. And he's rationalizing that because at this point in time, after 20 years of fighting crime in Gotham, he hasn't taken a break, by the way. Now, in The Dark Knight, Leroy Kong in the building. What's up, Leroy? So Kal-El said, I agree, not dark, but mature, adult, content. Leroy Kong says, hello to you. I'm at work now. Great live. Leroy says, Zack Snyder got DC right. Yeah, it's true. But I was just trying to, I like your contribution. I just wanted to try and kind of get people to understand certain things about BVS, because I even put out some stuff on Twitter. I haven't put it out on Facebook yet, but I put out some stuff on Twitter so that people would understand that a lot of people are over exaggerating what actually happened in BVS. I showed how Superman did not kill General Amaija. He didn't kill him at all. People said, you know, they thought Superman killed General Amaija. Superman didn't kill anyone in Man of Steel or BVS, save for General Zod, aka Doomsday. That's the only two people Superman has killed in those two movies, which is the same person, you think about it. And Doomsday, like Superman, can come back, right? And with respect to Batman and all the killing, they say he's killed people, and then they call him a murderer, and there's this big outrage. It wasn't that Batman was killing people. In fact, I just recently put out on Twitter showing examples of 5 people that people assumed Batman killed, and they showed up later on in the movie in the warehouse scene. In fact, I'm going to be super honest with you guys. Man, these criminals, you know, this is almost like the Arkham games, like they say. The criminals get beat up really bad. They should be dead, but they survive somehow, some way. Batman basically threw a car on top of one of those. And by the way, these are not ordinary people, by the way. These are not goons like what you saw in, or henchmen of the Riddler, like what you saw in The Batman, or goons like what you saw in Tim Burton's Batman 1989 or 1992, which were goofy. It's more like Christopher Nolan's, you know, militarily trained, you know, henchmen that you would have seen in China when The Dark Knight went into to apprehend a certain guy in these big buildings. It's more like that. These people, if you think about BVS, I'm going to give you a misunderstanding of this film. In the beginning of BVS in Africa, when we saw the scene in Africa, you will remember that LexCorp had its representatives. It had a private army there, a private military company was sent into, from LexCorp, was sent into Africa to work along with the rebels using experimental ammunition. This very skilled, very trained paramilitary arm was actually, in fact, hold on a second. Kala says 2000 AD comics. 2000 AD comics. Talk to me. What is 2000 AD comics? I'm gonna check that up right now. Talk to me. What is that, Kal-El? I'm gonna check that out right now. I want to know about that. Yeah, this is Judge Dredd. Yeah, Judge Dredd is up in here. Oh, that's tight. That's tight. 2080 comics. That's really tight. That's again adult entertainment. You know what I'm saying? And not adult as in XXX or form, but adult themes. Lyric Khan says Superman is protecting innocent lives. Absolutely. So here's what. Though the paramilitary group that you saw, these are military trained people that you saw in Africa where Louis Lane was, and these military trained people is what killed. They assassinated the rebels, right? Pinned it on Superman. These are the same people Batman was fighting at the warehouse scene. The same people Batman was chasing down when he was trying to get his kryptonite. These are not normal people. These are mercenaries. These are people that you send into military operations to. Kal-El says, I was wondering if you meant Zach referenced the 2000 AD as inspiration. I think it's heavy metal. I think it was heavy metal. He actually said it. He actually said it on Netflix. He said, he's influenced by heavy metal. And I must say that any adult kind of comic with adult themes is probably, Zach would love those things. Now, mind you, DC itself has a lot of adult themes, how the world rejects superheroes and all of this stuff. So they go into politics and all kinds of things. In fact, The Dark Knight goes into politics. We had Ronald Reagan in The Dark Knight. We had, what's his name? Dave Letterman was in The Dark Knight. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, pop culture, contemporary themes, these seem to be overarching themes you'd find. Leroy Combs says, all these henchmen who Batman fought are cold-blooded killers. Batman is a hero as well, like Superman. Yeah, so Leroy Kong, these are not just cold-blooded killers. These are military-trained, combat-ready, okay, mercenaries. Not only are they mercenaries that Batman was fighting here, and that's what made BVS so impressive, because these men knew martial arts. They know all kinds of, and you saw it when they were using the firearms. They're using it correctly. In fact, if you go and because the military actually, these were military. Some of the people and the stuntmen in this were military people. Okay, just like with Man of Steel. So how they held the guns was correct. How they would switch once they came out of ammunition, they dropped the weapon and they immediately replaced with another weapon. That's what you're supposed to do in the military. So it's like, if I go into detail about this stuff, because I was listening to a military guy on a Green Beret on YouTube talk about and discuss different Hollywood films and how ridiculous some of them are. Like, no way does a seasoned military person, if their gun jams, if my weapon is no longer functioning, I immediately discard it and pick up another weapon. And you saw that in BVS, especially in the warehouse scene. You saw it. You saw the military, like at last minute, they would bail. Like, I was talking about the car chase scene, for example, right? Where Batman, he's shooting up the SUV with the guy shooting the rapid fire gun turret at him, right? That's a high powered experimental weapon. This dude they shred off the back of the van and he's shooting this high powered weapon at the Batmobile. Thankfully, the Batmobile can withstand the brunt of that force. And then Batman returns with his superior firepower that destroys the SUV. And then the Batmobile plows through the SUV as it's keeping on going, right? What people missed is the gentleman who was firing the high powered weapon and he was going, right? He's a mercenary. But on top of that, you have to understand, as the SUV is falling over, he actually bails. He leaps out the SUV. And because he's a military, they know how to leap out and roll. They'd roll. So he could have possibly survived that incident, even if he may be in critical condition or he may be damaged. The other place we saw this was with the with the truck that was coming around the corner. People thought the Batmobile clipped the guy and killed him on impact. The guy that was at the end of the truck. You didn't see him in the truck after the Batmobile, but actually the guy bailed. He leaped out of the truck as the Batmobile was coming down. The Batmobile cleared him, but it hit the roof of the truck and cleared off the top of the roof and the side of the truck. But the guy actually bailed out of the truck, right? And it hit the SUV, which tumbled and smashed into some stuff. We don't know if those guys are dead, but I can tell you this. He took a car, the Batmobile grapple hooked an empty car and dragged it all behind it. And then he let go of the empty car that smashed into a car filled with these mercenaries. And I saw the mercenaries at the end of the film in the warehouse scene. I pinpoint 3 of them. There was the doctor who had discovered the kryptonite. He was in the front left seat. In the front was an Asian dude. Behind him was a white dude who later on Batman broke his arm in the warehouse scene. And then in the corner was a principal guy. He's like a right-hand man for KG Beast. And he was sitting in the back. We didn't see the doctor. So I don't know if he died or if he moved on to something else, because he's basically the guy that discovered the kryptonite. But with respect to the other 3 guys, they survived that. And the car went directly over it and crushed the top of the car. So because they're military, they know what military procedures to tuck themselves in, to make themselves small so that they could survive the impact of these things. So you got to understand, that's why I saw them. They were just notoriously difficult to kill, you know. Even with the explosion with KG Beast and the other guy that was inside that room. And by the way, one of the henchmen, I didn't do this one, but Batman, you know, when they were shooting the anti-aircraft guns at the Batwing, right? And Batman returned fire and destroyed the pickup trucks that had the guys with the anti-aircraft stuff. You know, one of those guys survived that, and he came upstairs with the grenade. The guy who plucked off the grenade to throw at Batman, he survived that, and he was also one of the mercenaries that was inside the truck, and he was firing at Batman when KG Beast fired off the missile thing. He also was in the truck. So I'm just saying, like, there's a whole story that's going on. That guy was downstairs when the guys opened up the anti-aircraft carrier stuff and started firing, because they're military. Once they picked up that there was a plane in the area coming, they started firing at it to take it down. So you got to understand, the place on the port that when they kidnapped Superman's mom. These are military grade people. They know how to torture people. They know how to do all kinds of things. In fact, they move precisely in the beginning in the Nairobi, in the African place. They moved precisely. They was like, move out, and all of them just moved out. You know what I'm saying? They're very precise in what they do. So, and it shows you how they can set up and frame things, that they actually have. It doesn't necessarily have to be government related. These companies could be private companies trying to start wars and stuff like that. So it was very insightful what Zack Snyder said. You know, they have the CIA there, but you also got this private company that they finance wars. So it's not, you know, people talk about the military complex. The military complex is very complicated. It deals with private enterprise as well. And it's really private enterprise. The military is not private. It's a national thing, but there's the experimental weapons, the intelligence and all of these things is not just the government agencies. They're depending on private agencies who do these things. And, you know, you remember the movies like Knight Rider and, the A-Team, where you have these private get-togethers of these military people with experimental stuff who work along with the government and get contracted out with the government and so on. So this is what Zack Snyder was talking in BVS. So it's like I said before, this is not one of those movies you sleep on. You know what I'm saying? It's serious. You know what I mean? And if I start going to the nuts and bolts, it gets very, very interesting, very, very fast. Kal-El says, thumbs up. All right, man. You know, so that's why I said this is like adult entertainment in that respect. And, you know, for those, you know, so the tonality of BVS is one that people misunderstand, because, again, the media created this whole, you know, the trades and media created as if Zach's a dumbass. He don't know what he's doing. And he only into gore and violence and sex, and even with Rebel Moon, they're trying to push that narrative again: gore, violence, sex. They're trying to push a certain narrative with Zack Snyder because they don't want his messages getting out there and people receiving them, because he's really, Zack talks a certain kind of way, but don't get it twisted. Zack's a thinker, and he really puts forward things which are well thought out, well crafted together stuff. You know what I mean? All right, so why am I talking about BVS's tonality? Kal-El says Zack Snyder is one of the military members in BVS. He opens the door for them to roll out. Oh shit, he was the one that opened the gate? Oh shit, I missed that. Oh man, Zack Snyder's crazy, man. I'm gonna check that out. I didn't even realize that. Oh shit. He was also in Dawn of the Dead. He was one of the military people protecting the president, right? On TV. Oh man, that's just so crazy. That is crazy. Zack Snyder, oh man, he sneaks in there, man. He gets in there. I'll be going back to work. All your lives are great. Very well said. All right, my bro. You go back to work, bro. So anyway, man, shout out to Kal-El, man, for that information. I'm gonna check that out. All right. Now, the way to be able to get past all the hoopla around a movie is to ask yourself the fundamental question: what is this story all about? And to summarize it in one sentence. All right. I'll tell you guys what I think BVS is. BVS is really the world's perception of Superman. And at first, he's controversial because different people have different opinions of him based on what happened in the Black Zero event, because this is when Superman appeared to the world. But as the movie progresses, because of Superman's personal relationship with different people and his personal impact with certain people, they begin to realize that he's legit. But by the time they do all kind of agree that he's legit, he really wants to do good for the world, he's dead, which is the irony of the situation. Of course, it ends on a positive note that he possibly could come back to life, and that's cool. But of course, I'm going to just put in, there's so many things to throw in there. I just want to sprinkle in that, Doomsday also is there. So Doomsday could come back too. I'm just saying, I just want to put that there for Justice League Part 2. It comes out. You know what I mean? So the first thing is you have to know what the story is. So if these guys keep on talking about, it's not fun, they start talking about it's not like Marvel, they talk about how it's dour and it's doomy and it's gloomy and stuff, because that's what the critics said. And that's why they panned it. I want to just let you guys know something. If they're not mentioning story on what the story is about, and I don't want them quoting some summary somewhere. No, you tell me in your own words what you think the story is about. If you can't tell me that, then why should I listen to you? You don't qualify. You have to be able to tell me what this story is. And then after you've told me what the story is, you should be able to now assess it. All right. So that's what makes this movie great. And I don't care if you say the theatrical cut is great or you say the ultimate cut is great. The ultimate cut is the cut. But the theatrical cut is just as good. Okay. And I'll say not just as good, but you know what I mean. I will always look at the ultimate cut, but it's solid. It's a very solid movie. And so if you can't answer that question, then I don't need to talk with you. You know what I mean? Now, the second thing that's important, let me just put this here, BVS tonality and misunderstanding, because what happened is that this movie was compromised for runtime. Okay? And so the director's singular vision, to some degree, was tampered with by the studio. Right? And I say the studio because it was executives at the studio who put certain mandates down. Now, again, studio, yes, executives. You may have your movie. You may say, this is my movie, or whatever. The studio owns the movie. But guess what? Guess what? You hired someone to make this movie for you. The last thing you want to do, the guy's called a director for a reason, is direct the director as to what he should do. I do not appreciate people who don't know anything about the creative process like that. Instructing people who know the creative process. We have this problem. It's a systemic problem now, not just with Warner Brothers, but with other production companies as well. But particularly we focus on Warner Brothers because they said they were director centered. Hold on one second. I'm just gonna take a little break and come back. It's your thing. It's your thing, yeah. All right. Okay. I'm back. I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. So one of the major problems with movies that don't do very well is because there are too many cooks that spoil the broth. Too many people cross over into places they shouldn't be, doing things that they're not staying in their lane. Okay. And one of those people is Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns is a guy who he was involved in TV, he was involved in a lot of things. And as a result of that, he had Playground where he would write for different films and stuff and give his suggestions and stuff. And with Christopher Nolan coming on the scene, he wasn't able to do that. So this is a guy that undermines Zack Snyder's stuff from the inside. Like I said before, one of the problems was the executives, their mentality, and the second was Jeff Johns. He was able to facilitate, speak to the executives, give them what they wanted to hear, and he was undercutting what Zack was doing. So that was one of the problems why the industry is kind of turning against Zack, Now, with respect to director singular vision, this is a very important thing. And that leads to the air cut, because the air cut is very important for a specific reason. Warner Brothers since the air cut hasn't stopped interfering with the directorial vision. And the following directors, I'm going to mention them again aloud. Their movies have been tampered with, and I've been saying it over and over again, and people are now catching up to what I have been saying. Kal-El says Zach is also in the courthouse scene. He's a news cameraman on the left of the panel. Wow, I didn't know that. Those are cool little tidbits. Let me be honest with you guys. One, they tampered with, obviously, Zack Snyder's Justice League. They tampered with that movie, Justice League 2017, Joss Whedon. Jeff Johns brought on Joss Whedon. They were able to get rid of Zack Snyder and redo his movie. But it doesn't stop there. After that tremendous bomb, Jeff Johns again interfered with James Wan's movie, Aquaman. The reason Aquaman kind of saw the light of day was two reasons. And I still think that movie is not a great piece of work. I know what James Wan actually wanted to do a much darker version of Aquaman, more of a, as it was reported in the trades, more of a horror flick almost, which would still have been a swashbuckling adventure, but it would have been where Aquaman was more engaged with Orm. Not so much Black Manta was brought into the picture. And again, Jeff Johns had a lot to do with that not happening. While Aquaman is a success for the company, it wasn't exactly James Wan's initial vision. And now we hear that Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom, it has 3 cuts of it. 3 different versions. They made James Wan do over the movie 3 times because of the different establishments. James Gunn is the latest guy to want to redo the movie. I do not understand why. Even if you're a director, you leave other I don't want to cuss. You leave other directors' visions alone. You don't see Christopher Nolan trying to give notes to Zack Snyder. You didn't see Zack Snyder giving notes to Patty Jenkins. So why are you doing that? Why are you messing up the people's movie, man? So anyways, the air cut is important because David Ayer is not the only person whose movie was hijacked from him. Kathy Yang, Birds of Prey, she won't tell you that. This is not, that Birds of Prey wasn't her movie. She got notes. She had to follow notes. They've been giving Zack Snyder notes. Even on his own movie, Zack Snyder Justice League, they were giving him notes. Shout out to Ego, what's up? Release the air cut and restore the Snyderverse or bust, period. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. People getting notes from a studio over stuff he can't show. And we all know Jeff Johns was the one that stopped the Green Lantern stuff. He didn't want to say executive. It's Jeff Johns, man. This dude he's not a filmmaker. What the hell are you doing? Don't cross the boundary. The man want to use Green Lantern, let me use Green Lantern. You got all these plans and all your plans flop. Anyways, I don't want to get too mad. Kathy Yang, she was a victim. Birds of Prey was dialed back. Kathy Yang wanted to go harder. All right, that's why it's rated R. She wanted to go harder. Okay, they dialed back Kathy Yang's film. They made it into some kind of politically correct film. I know Kathy Yang. Yeah, she would have had elements of feminism and all of that in her film. But I know she wanted to go all the way with that film. I know it. But they said, no, the kiddies, rated R, but the kiddies, we got to sell toys. They love Harley Quinn. Can't be doing that with Harley Quinn. She can't just be killing people left, right, and center. James Gunn allowed to do it, though. Patty Jenkins. Oh, they screwed over Patty on Wonder Woman 84. And Patty just took it like a champion. She took it on the chin. Yeah, that's my movie and stuff. Why do you think Patty was, happy that Wonder Woman 84 ended? Because it was a shit fest. That's not what Patty wanted. Her intention was to give tribute to Richard Donner, but not like that. She's a hell of a director. And y'all going in on Patty, telling you, man, Studio Notes, Kev Johns, Andy Muschietti. Oh my God. I don't even want to go into that. Andy he did over that movie so many times. James Gunn, you could see James Gunn, the beginning of the movie, James Gunn had high influence in that. The music that's playing, the fact that the Flash isn't running properly, it looks real shabby and cheap. It's because it's been reshot. Andy Muschietti had one thing in mind, and they made him reshoot and reshoot and reshoot and reshoot and reshoot. They transformed the man's movie. So what you got was a Frankenstein of a monster for the Flash. Somewhere in there is a good movie though. You know what I mean? They did Andy dirty. They did him dirty, man. James Wan. Well, they doing James Wan dirty right now. That's why James Wan ended up in the hospital. They doing him dirty right now. And I appeal to Warner Brothers Pictures, Mrs. Pamela Abdi and Mr. Mike DeLuca. I know you guys have more say right now because James Wan ain't producing nothing that even, you know, it's costing the company a lot of money right now. So he's getting less and less say. You guys have more and more say. So I appeal to you, Pam, Andy, and Matt DeLuca, please let James Wan just do the original film he wanted to do. It's supposed to be the last of the DCEU anyway. So let the man do what, what's his name? Jason Momoa wanted to do a movie on pollution. Don't let this guy have to shoot a movie all over again. Just give him a movie he wanted to shoot. I'm sure it's somewhere there in the filmography. He already shot it. Let him shoot that movie and just get it over with. Okay? This is why the Ayer cut must be released. Why David Ayer's version of this movie must happen. Because the other guys, they taking it for the team. They taking it hard, man. Patty's gone. We don't even know if Patty gonna get another job, in movies. This is the woman that produced the best Wonder Woman film ever. And her name is going in the mud. And she didn't do nothing. She just followed them. She obeyed, did the notes, did this, did that. They screwed her over, then they kicked her to the curb. Right? She even started talking to rhetoric that they wanted her to talk about Zack Snyder, which I did not appreciate. The double standards in treatment of creatives. James Gunn's movie flopped at the box office. They didn't freak with that. No, they made an excuse. Oh, it was COVID, whatever. And they promoted this man after flopping to CEO of DC, co-CEO of DC. How the hell that happens? Favoritism, obviously, nepotism. Because when Zack Snyder's BVS, the same misunderstood movie I just told you about, grossed in $875 million, okay? They fired Greg Silverman, and that was the last Zack Snyder had of any say. Man, Jeff Johns and all of them, they had plenty say, man. Suddenly Zack Snyder had no say over the universe, no say over his vision. They hijacked David Ayer's movie. They wanted to run over Patty with Wonder Woman. She had to fight for the No Man's Land scene. She fought like a beast. That was the last battle she won, though. You know what I mean? She was the last of the Mohicans, ladies and gentlemen. James Wan, they did him bad. They did him dirty. Y'all like the trench. He was supposed to get a trench spin-off. No trench spin-off. They cut that off. Warner Brothers treat these guys, these creators, so bad. So what is coming to roost right now, what is coming to fruition, is all the wickedness and evil they did to these people. So let's get back to BVS. So like I said before, the Ayer cut is important to release because they pivoted from BVS. They pivoted drastically from BVS when BVS only made $873 million. Still made profit. Still did well in spite of all of the negativity that was towards it and the critics panning it undeservedly. The tremendous misunderstanding from it. But at the end of the day, they pivoted. And they never turned back. They constantly pivoted in the direction Jeff Johns wanted them to pivot because the executives don't know about movies and have a very infantile perception of what comic book movies are. They think comic books are for kids. They think comic book movies are made for kids. And they keep, to this day, they still pivot in that direction. Okay? They have not pivoted back, or at least that's what it seems like. I'll talk to you what I think is happening now. So the Ayer cut is a very important that the Ayer cut gets released, because what that will set up is not only the restoration of the Snyderverse, because, you know, I'm going to talk about something else that's very important, but it will set up retribution for all the directors that got mishandled, because we have to go back. We have to deal with the mishandling of Ray Fisher. We have to deal with the mishandling of the people for the Justice League investigation. And some of these people now, their careers are blacklisted because they went and they spoke up in the investigation. That's what Ray Fisher is very deeply feels about. And all of these former executives, Walter Hamada, Kevin Tsuchiyara. By the way, Kevin Tsuchiyara was a good chairman. You know, he was playing politics, but he was a good chairman. Under him, some good things happened. But anyway, Kevin Tsuchiyara, who Jeff Johns, he polluted your ass, Kevin. Shouldn't have buy into him, man. Anyway, you doing your thing now. Kevin Tsuchiyara. John Berg. John Berg is now working with Greg Silverman. John Berg's a good guy. He just found himself in a crappy situation. All right. And he apologized to both Ray Fisher and he apologized to everyone. He's just a good guy that got caught up in a bad situation. He should have spoken out, though. You should have argued with them, but he didn't have the strength to do that. So anyway, Greg Silverman stood up for Zack Snyder. Greg Silverman stood up for Christopher Nolan. Greg Silverman stood up. This guy is golden. Greg Silverman's a golden dude. He got thrown off. They voted him out as president of productions, and this guy had been with Warner Bros. Forever. He took the fall instead of Zack Snyder. He wanted Zack Snyder to stay there. That's how much of a visionary Greg Silverman is. And anyways, I just want to say how important it is that we release the Ayer cut, that the Ayer cut gets released in 2024. It won't happen this year. 2024, we have to push as hard as we can to see the Ayer cut released. Okay, 2023, we got something we got to push, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Now, the thing about it is the chickens came to roost. The chickens came to roost. So right now, as we are speaking, Warner Brothers needs to pivot from where they're heading. And they've been adamant on heading in the direction of DC being fun and light and funny and for kids. Okay, they've been doing that in theme park rides now for 7 years straight. I'm not going to curse. 7 years straight, they've been doing these theme park rides. And they've been flopping. Okay, and the audience that they are playing to are smart, intelligent people who will not take that anymore. Let me just go back to this is the reasons why the pivot is necessary now. Okay, we're an hour, 12 minutes and 43 seconds in. You guys can feel free to join here as a guest. Jump in here if you want. 1, the double standards. Confidence in creators lining up with the studio's vision regardless of flops versus creators forging a more mature vision on their own. They talk about a director-driven studio. They talk about, you know, directors doing their own thing, and then you come and you now giving notes to everybody, right? You giving notes. People who are not qualified to give notes are giving notes. If you have to give notes to a director, why did you hire them? If you want a certain kind of thing, a certain kind of style, a certain kind of tone, you hire the people for that. Period. Otherwise, you're going to be butting heads with the director all the time, and you're always giving them notes. And so they never gave James Gunn any notes. They never gave Josh Whedon any notes. Both movies flopped, by the way. And James Gunn, the only theatrical releases that he's successful with are the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy with Marvel. This guy has never had another movie that has done well. He's a one-hit wonder. That's who's running DC Studios creatively. He's being supported by Jeff Johns, who never directed a movie in his goddamn life. Shall I read again from the scripture? I just want to go back to the scripture for a second. What fools are the counselors of Zoan? Their best counsel to the king of Egypt is stupid and wrong. Did I tell you the scripture was in line? What don't need to be said, don't need to be said. So we have executives who are good at managing things and so on, following the instruction of people who don't know what the hell they're talking about because that's not their expertise. The least qualified, trying to speak on people who are way more successful than they are. You got the audacity, Mr. James Gunn, to bash Tim Burton's work. This is a man that hits home runs all the time. But you want to bash his work? You want to go and judge Mr. Christopher Nolan? You have no respect. You are disrespectful. Oh, it's just his opinion. No, it's not just your opinion. You're disrespectful. You got a one-hit wonder. The only thing you knocked out of the park was Guardians franchise. You are not known for nothing else. Nothing else. You got the audacity to talk. It's like you trying to critique Al Pacino. You got the audacity to talk to a 4-time Academy Award winner in Jack Nicholson and say his Joker is crap? Bruh, y'all have no respect for the game. Hold on one second. Maybe he's not a 4-time Academy Award winner, but I know he won. He's been in pictures which won Academy Awards and all of that kind of stuff. Tim Burton's won the most amount of Academy Awards, more than Christopher Nolan. What Tim Burton does, he does very, very well. Of course, Tim Burton's a gothic guy. So he always incorporates elements of horror in his movies. Where do you think Warner Brothers gets all these horror directors, David Sandberg and all these guys? Why are they pulling from horror directors? Because of Tim Burton and his success. They capture that formula and they do it. We know James Gunn's frustrated because he knows his reboot won't work. I told you guys, movies coming off of movies with tremendous flops, they always have it difficult. You see? Kal-El says Gunn couldn't break $1 billion at Disney, but the no-name Miss Marvel director did. It doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter if you break $1 billion or not. Is your movie good? And Gunn is a comedian. He tries to have heart in his movies, but he's a comedian. So for him, if it ain't funny, it's not good. You know what I mean? The reboot won't work, and the reason it won't work is because you're coming off of all these flops, and you have this anticipation that you can do something different, but you don't have everybody behind you. You have a certain group of people behind you, but most of the people are not buying into that stuff. So you have a very difficult task ahead of you. Even Batman Begins, good movie. Gunn's criticizing the movie, saying it's not all that. My God. But Batman Begins, it just broke even, barely broke even. This is after 7 years after Batman and Robin, the worst Batman film ever put to screen, right? So the point being that unless Warner Brothers wants to wait 6, 7, 8 years to reboot a universe, they have to have another strategy, and the strategy is to pivot. Kal-El says Gunn has alienated Snyder fans, Burton fans, Nolan fans, disrespected Donners, Lex. This is the head of DC. Yeah, he's pitting everybody against him. You know, he's very reckless in what he says. So it is what it is. All right, so a reboot is just not going to work at this point in time because you got to bring something that gets people's imagination, that gets them stirring. And people's gears were in motion after Superman, you know, Darkseid is coming and all of that. So people are hyped up about that. And it's hard now to bring something that could hype them up even more than that. And James Gunn doesn't have the style. I told you he's a comedian. He doesn't have the style to get people's imagination like that. So it is what it is. The other thing is, with the strike that's going on, that doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. If Warner Brothers doesn't pivot now, and that's why they're relying on their franchise stuff that will work. I'll talk about that in a minute. I did mention it early on. They ain't gonna be able to produce nothing because the strike is holding back all production. So things are delayed till next year. Dune's already suffered from that. So what that does is the strike arrests all the production work out there. It's going to be hard to put out anything right now in 2023 that's not finished. And on top of that, they are going through a string of DC flops. $1.4 billion worth of DC flops. It's cost the company that. Thankfully, Barbie kind of offset that a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Damian Anton Vincent in the building. If you want to come on here, Damian, you can. The link's up top. Damian Anton Vincent says everything must burn. Kal-El says, I remember Begins wasn't very popular. Very niche audience at the time. Then Dark Knight got everybody's attention. Yeah, but it's actually a better movie than The Dark Knight in terms of giving information about how Batman became Batman. So that's what kind of makes it good. It is somewhat long and monotonous, but it's very detailed. And that's what makes it good to me. You know, stands on its own. Has a great ending as well. So basically, we've had 8 DC movies that flopped back to back. DCU, the DCU has not been financially viable since. Hold on a second. Yeah, the DC universe hasn't been financially viable for now. For now, see, 2020. So about 3 years now, it hasn't been financially viable. The things that bailed out the DC universe is the DC Black Label. So the Black Label movies for DC, that would be Joker and the Batman, have bailed out DC. All right, and even now it's $500 million in debt. DC itself. And with Blue Beetle flopping, which costs the studio, it's cost the studio now over $100 million. So it's really, really hurting the brand. Now, with respect to Warner Brother Pictures, Warner Brother Pictures actually been doing very well this year. They've grossed close to $2 billion so far. So if they keep on doing that, they'll have a really fantastic year. Their peak year Warner Bros. Has ever had was a over $5 billion year with Greg Silverman. It was 2013. That was their peak year. And maybe they can get something like that going again. But yeah, I mean, this year's been a good one for Warner Bros. Pictures with Abdi and DeLuca. They're doing an excellent job with Warner Bros. Pictures at present. But when it comes to DC, DC's doing terribly. Walter Hamada did not help the situation. And now James Gunn is just making it worse. Like they hired the worst possible people you could ever have to run DC have been running. So that leads us to the inevitable. So in order to do this pivot, you need to have a movie that goes into DC, goes into the DCU, which people have confidence in, which people have said positive things about, which people have stirred people to want to get the Snyderverse back. And if you want to integrate it into what you have or keep it separate in its own universe, but still be a part of the multiverse, so be it. But ultimately, in the end, this is the only solution right now that Warner Bros. Pictures have that really will help them. And I can see them wanting to pivot into this direction, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. I'm hearing something, but I don't know what something. Okay, so the first thing that leads to this direction is that Warner Bros. Is putting out a Zack Snyder Justice League trilogy re-release on October 20th on Blu-ray. So the whole pack, I call it the Superman trilogy because I don't think that it's a Justice League trilogy, but nonetheless, they're going to be re-releasing it on October 20th on Blu-ray. That's a pivot away from fun movies and fun packaging. They're not pushing anymore Justice League 2017 anymore. Now they're pushing Zack Snyder's Justice League release. And not only that they're doing that, but they're also pushing the Dark Knight trilogy re-release September 16th on Batman Day. Now, this is very important to understand because James Gunn had spoken negatively about the Dark Knight trilogy, particularly Batman Begins, and that, the Dark Knight he thinks is overhyped. And it's really interesting because this goes against what he would do. So this has to be an initiative that I think Abdi and DeLuca did. And even this Zack Snyder Justice League trilogy re-release October 20th on Blu-ray, that is not something James Gunn would do. So I'm very sure this is something, again, Abdi and DeLuca are behind. And that is a shift from what James Gunn has been doing. And I think it's because they have more say, as James Gunn is not producing anything to make that happen. I think they have more say over DC right now. The other thing that supports Zack Snyder's Justice League in IMAX and therefore Zack Snyder's Justice League in cinemas this November the 17th is the fact. Now, do understand another thing that this does. The Zack Snyder Justice League trilogy, when it's bought out, because people will buy it out, when it's bought out on Blu-ray, and it's the 4K release, by the way, re-release of the 4K UHD Zack Snyder Justice League on Blu-ray, that's something you want to buy. And I advise everybody to buy it. And people say, well, they're playing with us and they're trying to get more money off of us. I don't care. Buy it. You're showing them, hey, this is still in demand. The other thing about it is that it's also the month before November, the month before Zack Snyder's Justice League would go into cinemas and replace Dune if they announce it in September. Because here's the thing. If if that happens, it would have primed people up to want to see it in the theaters. If they're buying the DVDs, it means they would buy anything that has to do with Zack Snyder's Justice League, which means people would go in the theaters to see it, right? Now, here's the thing about that. They put out the Blu-ray release October 20th. They did not put out the Blu-ray release December, the end of the Snyderverse. So that's something else that I thought, well, whoa, October 20th, not the end of the year? You know, you could end the year with that. Nope. They're doing it October 20th. And there must be a reason they're doing that. So I want to see if they are smart enough to not follow foolish advice from Jeff Johns and all these other guys and James Gunn and all these guys, you know, the counselors that have no sense in them. They're just giving stupid counsel. Let's see if they really, Abdi and DeLuca, can pull this around, because they have been very successful with Warner Brothers Pictures, their productions, Creed 3, Mummies, Barbie movie, Elvis last year, and also the fifth one is what's the fifth one? There's 5 of them. Oh yes, believe it or not, they also were successful with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's Air. Air actually internationally was being circulated by them, so they were very successful with these different things. So what I'm saying is, with that success, it seems as though they're doing the right things again, and I just have the feeling, if they are given control, Abdi and DeLuca, they will pull through for us, you know. I want to say something else again. Now, for those people who are saying, well, one of the major things that happened, which was very bad, was Batman v Superman was cut for runtime. And some people were saying, well, the 3-hour cut, if it was to go into cinemas, you know, they wouldn't have gotten the turnover that they needed. That's nonsense. We all know a much more better movie produces more viewings. It doesn't matter how long the movie is, more viewings, people are going to view it. And here are epics that create the evidence to support this. Very recently, Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer opened this year in July, I believe it was, right? In July. And it's already $700 and something million. You know, it's grossed. And it's grossed the company already $300 to $400 million profit for Universal. Okay. And we all know, because of Tenet, Christopher Nolan left Warner Brothers, his long-standing relationship with Warner Brothers, and he's gone across to Universal. Okay. The man makes money. That's what the man does. Now, this could have been a movie. Oppenheimer could have been a movie that Warner Brothers be making money off of right now. But because the former regime didn't have the foresight and the understanding and playing politics and wanted to do what they wanted to do and was overstepping their boundaries, Abdi and DeLuca don't overstep their boundaries. That's what they do. And that's what makes them so great. They canceled the Batgirl movie. I will never, you can quote me on this, I'll never go back on it. That was the best decision they ever made. But then, with a different regime coming in, it really screwed up everything. Henry Cavill was gone, Ben Affleck and Gal and all of them. The Flash movie was in crap because James Gunn messed with it. So, and, you know, a lot of things got messed up because Abdi and DeLuca weren't there. And these are senior executives, seasoned executives. They've done a great job for Lionsgate. And these are the people you really want helming anything. They bring stability. They bring, you know, and so, once again, Oppenheimer could have been Warner Brothers' hit right now. Okay, it could have been theirs. Now, that's a 3-hour plus epic. Okay, then you got Avatar, The Way of Water. That last year, 2022, was an epic, and it grossed in record-breaking numbers. It is the highest grossing movie in cinema right now. And then, of course, a couple years ago, about 4 years ago, we had Avengers Endgame, and that grossed in a whooping set of money. Again, 3 hours plus movie. So don't tell me about runtime, right? BVS, if it went into the theaters, 3 hour plus movie would have been very successful, much more successful than the version that we got. And just to put this in perspective so that people understand, Killers of the Flower Moon, which is a Martin Scorsese film, was supposed to have limited release in theaters, because it is an Apple TV production. But this movie has now been released. It's going to be released fully into IMAX and cinemas come October 20th. So it's going to have full release, and it is a 3-hour plus movie. I don't know. Let me see how long it is. It's 3 hours and what? 3 hours and 26 minutes long. It is Martin Scorsese and shit, I forgot his name. That's unbelievable. But you know, Martin Scorsese and his actor, the famous actor. Listen, hold on. Can't believe I just blanked out with the name of the actor. It's coming to me, but then it's disappearing. That doesn't matter. Leonardo DiCaprio. So Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese, they team up for what is going to be probably an Oscar-winning performance. The budget for this movie was $200 million. Cinematography by Rodrigo Prieto. You've heard of Prieto. Apple TV's coupling up with Paramount Pictures. Paramount Pictures will be the one distributing the movie into theaters. They got a good deal where they should be able to do this. This is one of those movies I would want to see. It was in the 1920s. The members of the Osage Native American tribe of Osage County, Oklahoma, were murdered after oil was found on their land, and the FBI decides to investigate. That's the name of the that's the synopsis of the story, and that's a highly anticipated movie that I want to see in cinemas. And we'll see how far it goes, because, you know, Scorsese does come up with some good stuff, man. Now that leads me to the next segment. But these are all reasons why 3-hour epics being very successful at the box office. Reasons why Zack Snyder's Justice League needs to go into theaters. The 4-hour haloed cut. We don't want to do anything extra, you know, unless, of course, Zach has recorded footage already of the Green Lantern scene that he shot. But seeing it's a strike and everything, he may have to make an agreement with Wayne T. Carr. I don't know if they can work out the details about that, but if the details can be worked out, then Wayne T. Carr can get paid for his work. Who knows? But what I do know is that the 4-hour epic Zack Snyder's Justice League deserves to see IMAX and deserves to see cinemas. And these are the reasons why they need to pivot in that direction. Again, like I said before, on Max, you know, 2 weeks before, you have Man of Steel 1 week, and you have BVS the other week, and then you have Zack Snyder's Justice League in the theaters. You know, prime it up. And then October, the month of October is perfect to prime it up as well. Then to do the announcement in September. I think Abdi and Luca is going to have a lot more say in how things go. And if it's productive and if it's working, we can keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? But this is the only way I see DC coming out from this rut and from this flop. Because this is a movie that people are acquainted with. This is a movie that got good reviews. This is a movie that that the fans are asking for more of. Okay? So if they can give them more of it, people are buying out the DVDs. Okay, they're buying out the DVDs and the Blu-rays. This is a movie that whether you're a Snyder fan or you're not a Snyder fan, you're going to enjoy. And the time seems to pass very quickly because of the story flow. It's all about story flow. All right, so now I'm going to go to something that the last segment is upcoming releases that I have not seen or want to see this year, and you can add in your releases that you want to see this year. But I'm going to start off a couple of them. Of course, most anticipated is Rebel Moon. That's December 22nd. It's a Zack Snyder film. And of course, I also want to see Zack Snyder's Justice League in IMAX November the 17th. It's another Zack Snyder film. And Abdi and DeLuca make that happen, and we're going to be happy. Everybody's going to be happy, I'm telling you. And that's the Snyder, restore the Snyderverse. That would be great. On September the 29th, I also want to see the movie The Creator. I don't know if you guys are interested in that movie, but that movie's got me, and there's a lot of buzz behind it and stuff like that. So I would love to see that movie. This is Killers of the Flower Moon, by the way. For those of you who haven't seen The Creator, you can go up on YouTube and look at it. It's a fantastic movie. It has to do with, AI technology and all of that, and we're moving into an age where AI is replacing things, and then AI working side by side. So it's a thriller. It's very interesting. I think you guys will enjoy it if you like sci-fi, if you like thrillers, that kind of thing. The other movie is Ridley Scott's Napoleon, which will have Joaquin Phoenix in there. That will come out November the 22nd, which will be a couple of days, about 5 days after Zack Snyder's Justice League is released, if we get it released. That's a great movie. Ridley Scott is known for making great movies. You know what I mean? The only competition that Zack Snyder Justice will have in the month of November is really the Marvels. And I'm telling you, there's room for both of them to do well. Just like how Barbie was doing well with Oppenheimer, I could see Zack Snyder's Justice League doing very well with the Marvels. And they both making a ton of money in the month of November. There's nothing really else in the month of November. Napoleon is going to be probably an Oscar-winning performance by Joaquin Phoenix, so I can look forward to Napoleon. I haven't seen Oppenheimer, and I haven't seen The Sound of Freedom. July the 21st with Oppenheimer released, and The Sound of Freedom released July 4th. It is a film that's sort of blacklisted in Hollywood, and that is terrible because this film has nothing bad about it. It does kind of allude to certain names in Hollywood, and I think because of that, and they're trying to say it's right wing or some kind of bullshit like that. But nonetheless, I'm telling you right now, those are two movies I want to see, and if I can get my hands on either, because right now in cinemas in my country, they're not playing. So I want to see Oppenheimer and I want to see Sound of Freedom. I may have to see them on DVD or digital and purchase them. I don't care. I need to see those movies ASAP. The other movie they're talking about, but I'm not really as intrigued. I'm kind of interested in it, but they talk it up. They say it's greater than the trailers. Is Gran Turismo. You guys can also give some suggestions about movies that you're interested in seeing. But as it is, I am done talking about what I had to talk about. This is it. I wrap it up right here. I am Christ. I am disciple. Got to talk with you guys. You guys got to see the video. Hopefully I get video feed in my next stream. You guys want to hop on here, say anything, say a few words, you're invited to do so. You got like about 30 seconds to do so. And then after that, I'm wrapping up the stream. But you guys have a great day. God be with each and every one of you. I will catch you guys at a later time. I'll do another stream either tomorrow or the next day, because there's so many different topics I really want to cover. Comment section. Somebody in the comment section is saying, Mad Max says, excellent stream. Thank you very much, Mad Max. Mad Max Fury Road. Oh, George Miller, baby. We can talk about great directors the next stream if you want. Just all you guys can also put in a request as to what you want me to talk about in terms of streams. I don't like talking about frivolous things. I like talking about things that are very important. Khalil says, I remember Begins wasn't popular. Very niche audience at the time. Then Dark Knight got everybody's attention. I got you, man. I got you. So check me out. I am also known as What You Need. I do cover boxing, even though on my channel, the last two streams I did covered the Snyderverse. Feel free to also give suggestions as to what you would like me to talk about. Feel free to donate to my channel. Feel free to come here as guests. We chop it up. I do want to stay more positive about these movies. There's a lot about BVS I haven't really shared with you guys on YouTube or elsewhere. There's a lot of stuff. It's a very packed, very dense movie. And of course, I'm looking forward to Rebel Moon. I know Rebel Moon is going to be something, and I'm beginning to realize what it could be. So it's got me pretty excited. Repercussions of BVS, repercussions of Zack Snyder's Justice League. These things just make me very excited for the sequels to Zack Snyder's Justice League. Also a sequel to Superman movie with Henry Cavill. Of course, Henry Cavill is earmarked to be in the Highlander TV movie. I'm sorry, the Highlander movie. So it looks like Henry Cavill's going to have his hands full because Henry Cavill also likes World of something. I can't remember. He's doing a movie on that. I can't remember what the name of it is right now. And he really loves that game. Warhammer. Yeah, he loves Warhammer. You know that. And also, Henry Cavill's in demand for all kinds of things. He's working on all kinds of different projects. But I do hope he can come back to do Superman because from every single project that we've seen Henry Cavill, he's doing a thriller, they think of him as Superman. So, I mean, let's just be real. That's Superman right there. I don't care what they do with Cornerset or whatever James Gunn wants to do. I don't care. I'm interested in what what Henry Cavill's doing. I want to see Henry Cavill back as the Man, of Steel, and I want to see a sequel of that. Definitely want to see another sequel with Superman, with um, him doing a solo movie of some kind. You know what I mean? So that's what I got. There's a lot more I would love to talk to you guys about, but right now we need to wrap it up. That's the topics that we covered. It took almost 2 hours. I don't want to keep you guys too long. By the way, those of you who are watching the stream, if you're too late, this is kind of late in the video to do, but I might put it in the comment section somewhere. You can always watch these videos at 1.5x. That is 1.5 times the speed that it normally goes at. That'll help you get through the videos much faster. 2x is a little too fast. All right. So I'm gonna catch you guys later. I am Christ, I am disciple. I hope you guys had a good day. I'll pray God will be with you during this day, guide you and protect you. Always, give thanks for life and strength. You're not keeping yourself alive right now. It is, the graces and mercy of life itself. I'm gonna catch you guys later. Peace.